Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Conqueror's Blade, where we have got the Season 1 patch rapidly upcoming on us, and we're going to be taking a bit of a look at the patch notes, which have just gone live, and just talk through a few of the changes that are going to be happening in this patch. So, obviously, as you would expect from the Season 1 patch, the main thing to be being introduced in this patch is the Season 1 update. So we're getting deployed the new Season 1 interfaces. The Season 1 Battle Pass is going to be going live, along with its weekly challenges and lockable cosmetics and stuff that are all going to come along with that. Now, at this moment in time, I don't have much extra detail on that. I don't know anything about the pricing of the Battle Pass or anything like that. So that's something that I'll probably cover in a later video when either I get more info or when the news article on that goes live on the Conqueror's Blade website. But beyond that, there are also a host of other changes that are going on in this Season 1 patch to do with a variety of other things. So, firstly, let's just cover things like the Warlord balancing, because there's a few changes coming along to various different Warlords. Dual Blades getting a small stealth effect when dismounting, used for 3 seconds. Nice. I do not play Dual Blades at all since closed beta, so I don't kind of know what that's like, but I don't really find Dual Blades to be all that strong in the game at the moment, so it's not really a surprise that they've added that. That's probably a little good thing. Short Sword and Shield is getting quite a lot on it that's changing, to be honest. So, some things like the Iron Sides is getting its cooldown increased quite a lot. Like Iron Sides 1 is going from 20 to 30 seconds. That reduces down to 24 seconds for Iron Sides 3. But yeah, that's kind of getting an increased cooldown. So that's its invulnerability. That's its like 80% armor increase. But then there's some decreased cooldowns on Hurricane's Edge and Pro-Crisis Gift. So they're kind of going to be increases. And Hurricane's Edge is also getting an increase to the amount of damage it does across the 3 various factors. So there's a bit of a buff going on there. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for the Short Sword and Shield. Kind of have to see how that plays out. Probably mostly a positive change in terms of the damage output of some of its abilities. Probably depending on which abilities you use. Musket is getting a small nerf. Maximum shot range from left clicking reduced from 25 meters to 16 meters. So, yeah, basically getting a slight range nerf there to the musket to make it a much more close range weapon. But a lot of muskets really do play quite close in and quite tough, so probably not going to make a massive difference. Probably just a little bit easier to escape from them now if you want to make a run for it and try and break away from them. Once you clear that 16 meter distance, you should be safe from the stunning effect, so that won't be so bad. Bow, some very slight damage changes around its normal attack, but really not that much, nothing major there, I don't think. And then the rest of the classes mostly are just increased mastery point income from killing enemies in battle, so you should hopefully be able to get more points quicker and be able to research other classes. And that's it for the Warlords, the hero balancing. Nothing too dramatic in there. Hopefully nothing that anyone's going to be particularly offended by. Nothing too bad, I don't think. So, moving on from hero balancing, onto unit balancing. Quite a small section. I was expecting quite a few units to get balanced here, and there really isn't very many. So, starting off, Imperial Archers. Bit of a surprise buff. Wasn't really expecting them to get buffed. They're basically getting a Bodkin arrow buff. 25% increase to arrow shooting speed, 12.5% increased damage on Bodkin arrows only, not on their normal arrows. It's worth bearing in mind. These are their heavy armor piercing arrows that they're supposed to be. So, small buff there. Across the board, pretty much, Javelins are getting a slight buff, but mostly just in leadership cost. Imperial Javelins 265 to 240, Javelin Sergeant 250 to 230, although they're also getting a 20% armor penetration buff. So, Javelin Infantry are also getting a little buff. So, yeah, generally across the board, it's a leadership cost reduction for the higher tier Javelin units. And then, kind of the final one that stands out in the selection of unit balancing, which this is one I kind of disagree with. Iron Reapers are getting a big buff. Iron Reapers increase all defense by 200. Sword attacks now possess stun effect, and flails will break defenses, and Iron Reapers cannot be stunned by a normal attack. Wow. I mean, you don't really come across Iron Reapers very often in a siege or random battle because there's so much unit tech tree to go down to get to them that they're pretty rare for people to have enough honor to actually unlock them. But when you do, they already feel like a pretty decent unit in the current game. And by adding that amount of defense increase, it's the 200 defense is probably quite shocking. And the fact that the sword now possesses a stun effect as well as the flail. So that's now two, it's a two-handed class. So it's now got 2 stunning weapons. Seems a little brutal. So yeah, we're going to have to see how that pans out, but one I was kind of a little bit surprised at. So we've also got some changes in terms of doctrines. Now these are just some small ones, but basically they're stopping you from completely metering the system. With a few of the more extreme ones, like Epic Mobility Doctrine and Sprint Doctrine cannot both be used with Sword Militia. You know, considering Sword Militia has a sprint anyway. I think the idea was, if you kind of combine them and then combine them with the unit sprint, they'll end up flying quicker than cavalry across the battlefield. You're not really supposed to be doing that. And there's a couple of others, about 5 in total, but it basically just stops you from hyper-optimizing units by using too many sort of doctrines that shouldn't really be used in conjunction with each other. So it's basically just a block on doing that sort of thing. I doubt it will really affect many people because, well, I've not got anywhere near with it. There's this amount of doctrines to get these to work like that yet. So yeah, I think that's something that probably just affect a few people. Couple of map adjustments, nothing really very much. Mostly Valley Fortress, nudging around a few supply points. Meh. Just a minor change. You'll see it when you load into a battle. I don't think that's something that's going to make a massive difference. Now, a much bigger change, one I think a lot of people probably are going to be pretty pleased about. Personal storage expansion. Hey, finally. So they say many warlords have told us their inventories didn't have enough space. Well, of course, yes, we were all complaining about that, myself included. So there's now going to be an expansion function. But of course, it's not going to be cheap. So personal storage expansion will be available from the market and the apothecary. The price is 1,000 sovereigns or 200,000 silver. The only caveat to that is, it seems to be, well, they say there's a 50% discount that will apply for 14 days. So I'm assuming that's 14 days from patch launch. It's going to cost basically 500 sovereigns or 100,000 silver coins. So I'd probably start saving up your silver coins, because 100,000 each, not too bad. I'll be tempted to get 1 or 2 of them just for the extra space. It doesn't fully clarify personal storage expansion. I'm assuming this is going to be personal storage within the supply dump, not your actual inventory. But we'll kind of actually see how that pans out. So what else have we got? We've got a couple of small changes around siege equipment. So firstly, siege towers. The amount of soldiers needed to push the towers is going from 8 to 7 to an odd number. It seems a bit strange. That means we're going to have 1 too many on each side. It's going to trigger my OCD. But yeah, they decided to nerf that to buff that effectively slightly. So you need slightly less soldiers to push this equipment now. Supposedly it's because there's been kind of an increase in the number of archer heroes, and they're kind of plinking all the serfs that are pushing the towers in, and it means towers can't easily get to the walls because all the people pushing them are getting killed too early on. So it's fair enough. It is a minor problem, but it's a slight problem. So yeah, no, I'm happy with that. But then it's just a range of little buffs, small buffs for artillery, hwachers, damage increase, grape shot cannons, damage increase, ballista, reload time buff. Didn't think that was really needed. Decrease the reloading time by 2 seconds for all ballistas. Strange, but yeah, fine, I'll take it. And that's really it for the artillery. No other units are getting buffed there. Just the hwachers, grape shot, and ballista. It does mention trebuchet damage changes, but I don't think it really changes much. It's just changing the way the radius works very slightly. So going on from that, that is pretty much all they list as the main changes. But then there's about 3 pages of bug fixes. So I wanted to make sure I tried to give these a proper sort of read through, see if I noticed anything that could be a problem for anyone. Only a few things I noticed. There's a couple of heroes supposed bug fixes where things aren't activating properly. I noticed one that says Terrico Arquebusiers dealing too high damage in close quarters. It's a bit ambiguous because I'm not sure if that means Terrico Arquebusiers just in general are dealing too much damage in close quarters and then effectively it's just a unit nerf, or if on occasion some bug goes wrong and they cause too much high damage and you won't really notice any difference. So you may find that your melee capabilities of Terrico Arquebusiers end up getting a little bit of a nerf in this one, because that's something that I could see them kind of bringing down. Beyond that, there wasn't a vast amount of changes that I noticed in a lot of these. A lot of these are just sort of like little unit errors, description errors, things like that, or hero errors where something isn't activating properly. I noticed there was a Borderland one. Apparently some of the resources that were added in the pre-season update weren't quite activating properly, and they've restocking properly, so they've now changed that. It should be back working again properly and back as normal. And that is pretty much all I've got for you in this patch. As I say, most of the stuff is focused around the Season 1 updates, which I don't have too much info on at the moment. But in terms of the other stuff that's changing, generally nothing too shocking. Personal storage expansion, I think, is a positive thing. Yes, they're going to charge you a lot for it, but then, you know, you don't really need it, so I guess that's one of those sort of end game bonuses you can kind of try and work towards, which is kind of cool. And other than that, it's just kind of a lot of small and minor adjustments, some balancing changes. It's nice to see that they are actively focusing on balancing and that they do sort of care about it and trying to get it right, even if sometimes they miss the mark. I don't think they're too far wrong in this patch. But anyway, that's all I've got for you on this one. I'll probably leave you with this siege battle because it was actually quite a nice one. I think I ended up with quite a few unit kills by the end. So I shall leave you with this battle. Thank you for watching my video on today's patch notes. Any questions or anything like that, do let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel for a load more Conquerors Blade content, and I shall see you guys all on the next video.